Hi guys, and welcome to this other video. I hope you guys are doing great. So today in this video we are going to do the next lab, which is lab 2 for this is for our series of videos on activities on vDOMs. So in previous video we discussed about this topic, which is FortiGate vDOMs. So we presented some key concepts. So after showing some primary characteristics and prerequisite of vDOMs, we did some activities on VLANs. Then today we did one activity, the first activity on the vDOMs. So the first activity on the vDOMs were to do initial setup of vDOM, where we saw how to enable vDOMs, how to create separated vDOM, assign IP addresses, or create DHCP on or addressing on each vDOM. Then also configure administrator accounts for each vDOM, and we'll try to do some. We connected and saw what are the different items, or what are the different elements that we have for each administrator for each vDOM. So we saw the differences between an administrator of a vDOM and an administrator of the global FortiGate, or let's say the physical FortiGate. So we'll see some differences, and we'll see the permission level that each of those accounts have. So today, as I said, in that lab, we created two vDOMs. So for now, there is no communication between those two vDOMs. So what we are going to do today is to jump in this lab 2, where we are going to do Inter-vDOM communication. So in this lab, what we are going to do, we are going to do like we are going to configure two communication types. So the first communication will be communication between each vDOM to the internet, and the second communication will be communication between the two vDOMs, so inter-vDOM communications. So without wasting time, let's jump directly to our FortiGate device to proceed. So as you can see from here, so how we are actually connected to our FortiGate device. So what you can see so far is that the last time we did our configuration of this FortiGate device, we go here under system, then under vDOMs here. This is where we created these two vDOMs, so vDOM-A and vDOM-B. The root vDOM was enabled by default. Then after that, we went under interfaces, where we assigned interface 2 and 3 to vDOM-A, as you can see here. Then interface 4 and 5 will assign these to vDOM-B. And also, as you can see from each of those vDOMs, we enable DHCP access for internal 2 here for vDOM-A, and internal 4 here for vDOM-B. So behind this behind these two, we have IP addresses. So if I go on my VMware workstation here, so we have these two workstations here. So I have this Windows 10, which is part of vDOM-A. So I can quickly double check again. IP config. So this is the IP of the vDOM-A. Then from the other workstation, which is Windows 11, from here also I can quickly double check IP config. So this is the IP address of the subnet that was configured on the vDOM-B. So now, as you can see, this is 10.10.10.101. So if I go here under vDOM-A, so if I try to send a ping to 10.10.10.100.1, you see actually this destination is unreachable because there is actually no communication between the two vDOMs. So if I also take this 172.16.100.201, so if I try sending a ping from here, 172.16.100.201, also from here the same result. So destination not reachable, so they don't know each other. And also from here, if I send this request to ping, I send a ping request to 8.8.8. So this destination also is not known so far. 8.8.8.8. Yeah, so on the two vDOMs, you can see that there is no communication. There is no communication to either to the internet or for each of those each of these vDOMs, communication between the two vDOMs. So far from here, so if you go under vDOM-A, all that was configured here is enabling the DHCP here. So if you look here under static route, we don't have any static route here. If you go here under firewall policy, there is only the implicit deny firewall policy, the default policy that is enabled here. So there is no configuration yet. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you, let's just go on GNS3. So far, so as you can see so far from this GNS3 diagram here, this topology that you have here. So actually, as you know, the vDOMs are virtual domains. So these are like virtualized FortiGate devices. So that's why on this diagram here, you will see I have like 3 FortiGate devices, because it is exactly this topology that we have behind the vDOM technology, right? So you see here you have the root vDOM. So this is the default root. This is the default vDOM on which all previous configuration were migrated before we enable the vDOM on this physical FortiGate device. So when creating each vDOM, it means we are creating like a separated or a virtual FortiGate appliance, or a virtual FortiGate instance, like a virtual FortiGate, right? So here you have our vDOM-A, which is under this IP, this subnet, and we have a vDOM-B, which is under this subnet. So we'll start by configuring access to internet. So you will notice here that for vDOM-A to access to internet, we need to go from vDOM-A. We pass through the root vDOM before we can go to the internet, because if you check from here under, if you go here under vDOM-A, you go under interfaces here, so network interfaces here. You see from here we don't have any connection between this between vDOM-A and the one interface. So if you check here on the GNS3, this is the interface that let us go to the internet. So either whether you are coming from VNet A or VNet B, you will pass through this one link to go to the internet. But as for now, this one link belongs to the root vDOM, right? So this one link is actually part of the root vDOM. So this one link is actually part of the root vDOM. So what we need to do so far is we need to create like virtual links between each vDOM. So we'll create a virtual link between vDOM-A and the root vDOM. Then we'll create another virtual link between the root vDOM and vDOM-B. So what we are going to do after creating those links, we are going to create like static routes to indicate what is the route that is going to be taken by the packets, or the traffic that comes from VNet A to go to the internet. And also we are going to create from the root vDOM also static routes and firewall policies to let traffic that comes from this VLAN to go to the internet. So we are going to do like double config. We are going to create static route from here. We are going to create static route from here. Then we are going to create firewall policies from here, and we're also going to create firewall policy from here. So firewall policy will be allowing traffic from here to root vDOM. Then another firewall policy from here will be carrying the traffic from the root vDOM to the internet. So the root vDOM here is going like being the man in the middle. Let's say it like this. The root vDOM is going to work like the man in the middle for every traffic that comes from each vDOM to access the internet. So for creating the virtual links, so we'll try to use this. So I'm going to create a virtual link. So let me just take this. Okay. So I already prepared this, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a virtual link. So when you create a virtual link on FortiGate, so I'll do it in the next minute. So when you create a virtual link, you need to provide IP addressing on that link. So I'm going to create a virtual link with this subnet. So for that link, I'll be giving 100.1 to the root vDOM interface, and then 100.2 to the vDOM-A interface. So let's do this. Then next, what we are going to do, we are going to do the same with vDOM with root vDOM and vDOM-B, right? Root vDOM and vDOM-B, where we are going to use this 192.168.200.0 subnet /30. So here we are going to give .1 to the interface that is connected to the root vDOM, and .2 to the interface that is connected to vDOM-B. So let's jump directly to the FortiGate and proceed. So from here, where we are going to create the vDOMs or the virtual links, we are going to go here under global config. So here under global config, what we need to do is to go here under create new from here. Then we'll see vDOM link. So we'll create a new vDOM link from here. So here I'm going to create the first vDOM link. So I'm going to call this so I'll be calling this link to vDA, right? So I'm calling this route to link to vDA. So this is going to be the link between the route and the vDA, so vDOM-A. So from here, I'm going to provide the IP addressing 192.168.100. So this is the root vDOM site. So I'm giving .1 here /30. Then in the other side, I'll be giving the /2 or .2. So I'm giving here .2. So I can enable maybe ping here. So as you can see, when you are creating a link, you have like two interfaces that will be created. So there will be this first interface link called link to vDA 0, which is going to be assigned to the root vDOM, and the other link here link to vDA 1, which is going to be part of vDOM-A. So that's been said. So I'll just hit here OK. So I'll go again and create a new vDOM link. So I'll just call this one also link to vDB. Okay, so this is going to go from root to vDB. So here we say we are going with 192.168.200.1/30. Then here we are going with .2. Okay, .2 from here. Okay, we can also enable ping from here. So this is good so far. Hit OK. So here under the global, so we are here under the global mode. So if I go here below under the global mode here, you will see now that we have here below, we have like the two links that we created, the vDOM links that we created. So we have this first link, which is link to vDA. So under this link, we have like two interfaces that were created, each for one interface per vDOM. I also have this other link here that we created for vDOM-B. So we also have like two interfaces. So this means if you go here under the root interface here or the root vDOM, you go here below, you will see those links will be available here. So we see here we have one link that goes from this root to the vDA, and the other link that goes from this root to the vDB. Then you also go here under vDA, for example, you will see below here we have this link, or we'll say this interface, which is the interface behind this link from the root to the vDA. So we have created these links. So these links are now created. These two links are now created. So what we need to do next is to go and create static routes, right? We are going to create static routes from here. So what I'm going to create is that I'm going to start from vDA. So I'll go under vDA. I'll say if I want to reach every destination, I will go through this link with this interface. So this is going to be the default gateway if I want to go out of vDA. So that's what I'm going to configure from here. So here I'm under vDA. I'll go under static routes. Then I'll just hit here create. So if I want to reach any destination, I will be going through this link, right? I'll be going through this link, and through this link I'll be going with the other IP, so the IP address of the interface that is on the root vDOM. So I'll hit here .1, which is the IP address of the interface on the other side, right? So I hit OK. So I can jump also here on vDOM-B. I'll do the same. So here, if I'm going to go out of vDOM-A or vDOM-B, I'll be going through this interface. So I just copy the IP here. So this link with this IP.1. So that's it. I'm good. Okay. So the default gateways are now created. what I need to do next is to go under so now what I need to do is to also create default. No, I don't need to create any default route from the root vDOM, because for now I guess I have just one default gateway. So I have this default gateway that says to go to each destination you pass through the one interface. So for now, for the root vDOM, I already have the static route that let traffic to go through the one interface, right? So what I need to do now is to create firewall policies. So I'll start with vDOM-A. So here with vDOM-A, I'll go with firewall policy. Then from here, I'll create new. So I'll say create new. So I'll just call this access to internet. Yeah, let's say let's do it simple like this. So access to internet. So if I want to go to the internet, so I'm going from the internal, which is the internal subnet for this vDOM. So I'll be going to the internet through this interface. So this is the link between VDA and the root vDOM. So from here, I'll just go with all. So source all, destination all, services all, right? So from here, what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to lock all sessions. So I hit OK. Okay, so I'll do the same here with VDB. So from vDOM-B here also, I'll just hit, I'll just call this also access to internet. So from here also, if I want to go to internet, I'll go through internal 4, go out through the link between the VDB and the root vDOM. Then from here, I'll just go with all, then service, all. Okay, service also all. So here, all is all session are good. So far we have created static route and firewall policies. Static route and firewall policies. At the root level now, we just have the static route, but we don't have any firewall policy that let traffic go from this or from this this subnet to the internet, right? So let's check, for example, if I go on the workstation, for now. So let's check. So here on the workstation, if I try to send a ping to the internet, so here also if I try to send a ping to A.A.A, as you can see, this traffic is not reachable, right? So I'll just send a permanent ping like this. I'll do the same here on the other VLAN, on the other vDOM. Okay, so I'm sending permanent ping. So this ping are not going through because, as I explained, actually we don't have firewall policies at the root level. So as I mentioned, the root here is going to be like the man in the middle to let traffic go. We have traffic that is coming actually from vDOM-B, but the traffic is ending at the root level, so it's not yet going to the internet. So we need to open that traffic, or to create a firewall policy to allow that traffic. So from here, I'll go under the root vDOM. So here is where I'm going to create the firewall policy. So here I'm going to create two firewall policies, right? Because one that allows traffic that comes from VDA, and the other one that allows traffic that comes from VDB. So I'll just say VDA or VDA. Yes, just say VDA to internet. Okay, so we want from the root vDOM, we want to allow VDA to access internet, vDOM-A to access internet. So what I'm going to do is the incoming interface. So pay attention here that now you can see that you have from the root vDOM, you have the two interfaces that are available. So you need to pay attention here. So from here, the link to VDA, this is the link. So this is the incoming link. So if you check here, the incoming link, this is it. The .1 here is the incoming link for VDA, right? So this is the incoming link, and the outgoing link is actually going to be the one interface, right? So we are allowing traffic that comes from this to pass through the virtual link that we created, and to access or to go out through the one link. So this is it so far. So everything here is going to be all, just providing all here, all here also we give all. Then the sessions here, we're also going to lock all sessions. Okay, so I'll do the same with vDB. So here also we'll just say vDB to internet. So as you understand, we are going here with this link vDB. Outgoing is the one. Here we're going with all. Destination also we're going with all, and services all as well. So if you check here below, also all session, click OK. So normally now traffic should be going. As you can see for now, this link VDA to internet, you can see that there's already some traffic here. So I guess the ping requests are actually going on. So you can see now from here I'm actually connected on VDA, and you can see that the ping is actually successful. And you can see now also now from vDOM-B, the ping is actually successful. So we have actually enabled access to internet to these devices, right? So from here, internet is working properly. Okay, so all looks good so far from each of the workstations. So from each of the workstation, you can see now that we have access to internet on each of the workstations. So our settings work very fine or very well. So as you can see, so we go from VDA, we pass through the virtual link to access the root vDOM. Then from the root vDOM, we can access the internet. So there is no direct connection between each vDOM and the internet. So as you can see so far, the devices are accessing to the internet. So the devices are accessing to the internet through through my one interface, right? So let me reconnect again. So these devices are accessing the internet through my one interface, right? So let me check quickly here, then I explain something interesting. So let me just check here first, also with speed test. So what I want to explain here is the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, you will see that the devices are actually using the one interface of my physical device, right? So they are actually using, let me go here under interfaces. So they are actually using or sharing, let me say it this way, we're actually sharing the bandwidth that I have on my one interface. So pay attention that, for example, if I check the information on my workstation here regarding the one interface, so you see, let's say for example, if I have like 500 megabytes of memory that I want to share with the vDOMs, so there is a possibility for me to share resources like CPU, memory, storage, and bandwidth for each of those vDOMs. So, for example, if I'm running like a 500 megabyte per second bandwidth, I can assign, for example, 100 or 200 megabytes on a specific vDOM, or 100 or 150 to another specific vDOM, and that will make my bandwidth to be reduced for my physical device and then reassigned to that vDOM. So the users in that vDOM will be able to use up to the amount of bandwidth that I'll enable for them. So we'll see how to do all of those traffic resource limitation on lab 3 here. So in the lab 3, that's where we are going to see how to limit resources for each vDOM. We'll see how to limit sessions, number of accounts that we can create. So I just wanted to present that so far from here. And also pay attention, as I was mentioning, actually the workstation or the vDOMs are actually using the bandwidth that is actually configured for my one interface. So this is one solution if you are providing vDOMs to client or to each department. But in the case you are providing this vDOM for a client, let's say a client decided to buy vDOM services from you, so you want to share your vDOM resources with another company, let's say it like this. So for example, here as you see, we assign port 2 and port 3 here to vDOM-A. So in case, for example, the client who is actually using vDOM-A decide that the bandwidth I'm actually providing him is not sufficient for his workload, so he can also go and subscribe to an ISP. The ISP will provide an internet box. So that internet box, we can collect the internet box and plug it directly to our internal tree interface here. You see, to the internal tree interface here, as the internal tree here is the interface that belongs to vDOM-A. Then in that case, if we plug the ISP on internal tree, then from here, what we can do now is to go under the firewall policies here. Where is go here, vDOM-A, sorry. So if you plug the ISP cable here on internal tree, which belongs to vDOM-A, we'll simply now go from here under firewall policies. Then from this firewall policy that grant access to internet, will simply redirect this outgoing interface to the internal tree, which is the internal, which is at that moment the interface on which the ISP for vDOM-B is actually connected, right? So those are like the two options that you have when you are enabling internet access for vDOM. So either you are sharing the bandwidth of the one interface that is actually connected to the physical FortiGate device, or you can assign a second physical interface to the vDOM, then plug their own ISP to that interface, then do the settings, right? They can also do this by themselves, but all you need to do, as you are the one who have the physical access to the FortiGate device, you will need to physically plug their ISP on that FortiGate device. So that was it. So the next thing we need to do so far from here is that for now we have access to internet, right? But there is no inter-vDOM communication so far. So still from here, this device which is from vDOM-B is not able to ping the other device in vDOM-A, right? And vice versa. So even from this other workstation here, if we try to send a ping to vDOM-B, we don't have access to vDOM-B. We don't know the destination to vDOM-B. So this is what we are going to do now to enable inter-vDOM communication. So as from here, still on this diagram here, you can consider that, okay, as so far we have already enabled virtual links between VDA and root, and also a virtual link between the root and VDB. So you can think of, okay, maybe it will be much easier if we set some settings between on the root vDOM here to let the communication go between vDOM-A and vDOM-B, right? Like for example, just creating a simple static route from the root vDOM here. You can, for example, create a simple static route from the root vDOM here to let traffic go from vDOM-A to vDOM-B and vice versa, right? So this is one option. But in this case, when you do it in this way, it means the traffic would depend on the root vDOM, right? It means if you are exchanging a huge traffic between the two vDOMs, that traffic will still need to pass through the root vDOM. So this will increase some. This will include more traffic, more workload on the traffic. So another way to do this is either you can decide, for example, to create or to simply add a new link, right? So you can decide, for example, to add a new link, virtual link directly between vDOM-A and vDOM-B, and do the settings so that communication from vDOM-A to vDOM-B works fine, right? So this is going to be the alternative that we are going to use. So I'll prefer to use this one, where I create a separate or a dedicated link directly between vDOM-A and vDOM-B. So we don't need to depend on root vDOM, right? So this is the link that I'm going to create. So giving this subnet 10.160.50.0/30. So this is going to be the link that we are going to create. So at the vDOM side, I'm going to give a .1, and the vDOM-B side, I'm going to give a .2. So let's connect and implement this. Okay. So here I'll go back on the global mode, right? So here on the global mode, I will go again under interfaces, so network interfaces. So from here, I'm going to create new again. So new vDOM link. So here I'm simply going to call this VDA dash VDB. So I'm just giving it simple like this. So this is going to be link between vDOM-A and the vDOM-B. So here, as I said, the IP address is going to be 10.160.50.1/30, enabling a ping here. Then other side, I'm going to give 10.160.50.2/30. So I'm simply creating this link from here. So I'll hit OK. So if I go below again, still on the global vDOM mode, so you see now we have the link for VDA, the link to VDB. Then now we have the link from VDA to VDB. So you will see the two links are actually connecting vDOM-A and vDOM-B, right? So no need for the root vDOM here. I don't need any communication from the root vDOM. So from here, what I'm going to do, as I explained, I need to go on each vDOM and create static routes and firewall policies, right? Static route and firewall policies. So let's start with vDOM-A. vDOM-A here, I'm going under static route. Okay. So you see now that from here there is already an existing route from for each destination to pass through the link that we had between the root and the vDOM-A. So here I'm going to create a new static route from here. So the destination or the interface to reach the destination vDOM is going to be this. So this is the new link that I created, VDA VDB. So just simply copy this. So I'll select this interface, then I'll paste this. So this route here that we are actually creating, okay, .2, sorry, .2. So this route that we are actually creating is to reach a particular destination. So this route that we are creating from vDOM-A here is to reach to this destination 10.10.10.0/24. So I need to provide that subnet from here 10.10.10.0/24. Okay. So this is the route to go from. So this is the route to go from vDOM-A to this destination. So from here, I'll just hit OK. So I'll do the same here on vDOM-B. So on vDOM-B also, I'm going to create a route. So this one, I also select this. Okay, this interface, go through this link. So this to go to the 172.1600.0/24, right? So this is the route that we need to take if we are going from this subnet to this other subnet, going through this this interface, right? So now that we know the IP addresses, or we know the default route that we need to take when we are going from each destination to the other. So now we need to go back from each vDOM now and go through firewall policies, right? So now on firewall policy, I need to create a firewall policy. So for each vDOM, as we need traffic to go out and in, so we are going to create two firewall policies at each end. One firewall policy to let traffic that goes from VDA to VDB, and another firewall policy that let traffic to come in to VDA, right? So here directly, I'm going to create a new, then I'll say this, I'll call this access to, I'll say VDA to VDB, right? Simple calling like this. So vDOM-A to vDOM-B. So if I'm going from vDOM-A to vDOM-B, it means I'm going through the internal IP, and the outgoing interface here is going to be the link between vDOM-A and vDOM-B. So this is it. So far I'm going with all, destination here, all, services, all. Pay attention here, we don't need to enable NAT, right? So traffic that goes from vDOM-A to vDOM-B and vice versa, we don't need to enable any NAT between those on those firewall policies, right? We really don't need NAT for routing those traffics, right? So pay attention here to disable NAT. Very important here, because if you do forget, this will not work, probably not work. So we disable NAT here and we lock all the sessions. So this VDA to VDB. So I hit OK. So from here now I need to create the other firewall policy to that comes back from so let's say VDB to VDA. Okay, VDB to VDA, right? VDB to VDA. Okay, so if traffic is coming back to VDA, so we'll be going through this link, and the outgoing interface this time is going to be the internal, right? So just hit all, also here all, then services, we'll go with all, disable NAT, lock all sessions, hit OK, right? So we are going to do the same in the other side. So here in vDOM-B, we'll just create a new firewall policy, then we'll call this VDB to VDA. Okay, VDB to VDA, as simple like this. So we'll go with all source, all destination, all schedule, disable NAT, lock all session, go. So this was VDB to VDA. Then the other way, simple say VDA to VDB. Okay, so VDA, so we're going through this link, then we're coming back to internal. Okay, yeah, all, okay, all services, all, disable NAT, all sessions. Okay, okay, this being created for both vDOMs. Okay, yeah, we have this for both vDOMs. So if I go here under oops, I didn't send the ping, so let me send the ping. Oh, okay, so now you see the ping is going through. So we are going through actually from vDOM-A to vDOM-B, so the traffic is actually going through. So if I go in the other way, now try to send a ping from vDOM-B to vDOM-A. Okay, so you can see now that traffic is also going from vDOM-A to vDOM-B, so and vice versa. So as you can see, we can now send communication between these two vDOMs, right? So all looks good. Yeah, so all looks good. So if I check again here on the vDOM, okay, we see traffic now is actually going on both direction. Also here vDOM-A, okay, we also see traffic is going in both directions. So actually the devices actually have inter-vDOM communication, and they also have access to internet. So just double checking for my internet access here to make sure all still works. Yeah, have it working here so far. ESPN website also working. So yeah, internet is working in both direction, and inter-vDOM communication also is enabled. So guys, I think this is all we have to present on this lab 2, inter-vDOM communication. So we have the links to the previous videos are actually available on this channel, so I also put it in the description of this one, so where you will see how we set up the initial lab 1. And also if you want to see videos that we did on VLANs, as I was explaining during the initial video where we presented the key concepts of vDOMs. We also presented the similarities that were available between vDOMs and VLANs. So we saw what were the similarities, and what were like the differences between the two, and what are the use cases where it is preferable to use vDOMs or to use VLANs. And that's why during the activities on the VLAN, we did a lot of practicals So you can also find those activities or the links to those activities or those videos on the channel. So guys, stay tuned. Let's meet in the next video where we are going to go with lab 3. Don't hesitate to let me know in the comment section what are your thoughts. If you have any question, if you have any suggestion, if you want us to do a video on a particular topic, just let me know in the comment section. If you're actually doing some FortiGate certification or following some FortiGate certification and you need maybe some follow-up, some mentorship or something like that, or any training, just let me know in the comment section. Then I'll be I will see how we can organize something to help you guys go through your certification career. So guys, stay tuned. Let's meet in the next video.